Hey there, Knicks fans. What's going on? Everybody getting a lot of work done today? Yes. Productivity is through the roof. There is no more roof. So productive. How you doing, Jeremy Cohen? What's going on, man?
I'm good. I'm tired. Didn't get that much sleep last night. John, I don't know if you heard. Kevin Durant decided the trade would go through, or at least it happened at like 1:05 a.m.
Wait,
So
Kevin
right as I was
Durant.
about to go
Hold
to
on,
bed,
hold on.
the trade occurred.
Kevin.
Oh yeah, so
That's right. He signed with a team in Brooklyn
yes,
several
yeah.
years ago.
Yes.
How did that go for him?
Not great. It probably could have gone better. Yeah, it is.
That is a shame. Really is.
Yeah.
I hate to see it. Okay. Well, that's good. Third Blues brother over here.
Yeah. To be fair, I believe in karma, right? There's a certain level of laughing at misfortune and then flash to us being like, what the hell just happened with our own team? Okay, as the Hawks trade Justin Holiday and Frank Kaminsky for Garrison Matthews and Bruno Fernando, not the Knicks,
biggest deal of the day.
Yes, and I know that's what everyone's waiting for, right? But yeah, it's crazy.
Can I just make we'll get into all the just right at the top, the rumor right now, which is coming out of multiple places outside of Chicago, is that the Knicks are talking to Chicago about Levine, and this is coming. So Joe Cowley's he's a newspaper guy with the Chicago Sun-Times? Yeah, Chicago Sun-Times. So reputable outfit, been around for a little while. Said that the talks started last night, broke off, and then they picked up today. There's someone else out of Chicago who I believe is also spitballed the possible package. I thought it was interesting that in the piece that Cowley just released 5 minutes ago, I think the line was something along the lines of it is believed that some draft capital would be involved, which is an interesting way of phrasing what perhaps the framework of such a deal is. We'll talk about that in a second. Derrick Rose's name continues to be out there. I believe Ian Begley was the first to report that the Kings are an interested suitor. For what it's worth, I think the Kings are interested, or at the very least, my understanding is that those two teams the Knicks and Kings have been talking a lot. I have no idea what the Kings want with Derrick Rose. Do you have any idea what the Kings want with Derrick Rose?
Not entirely sure. Maybe just they're a younger team, so maybe they want someone who's a little bit more battle tested, veteran of that type. Not sure.
And if you're looking at the Kings salary cap sheet, and you're seeing Rashawn Holmes, big fat contract there, and asking yourself, well, what do we need with another center? Keep in mind that thanks to the trade the Knicks made last night, they could do a 3-for-1, and so they could do something like, I think it would be like Len, Terrence Davis, and I think there's another salary that probably makes the math work. So,
yeah, the only issue is then you're running into a tax problem next year because Holmes has a guaranteed salary.
No, I'm saying that not Holmes.
I see. You're saying
I'm saying compile, do a 3-for-1.
Davis, Alex Len,
exactly.
Trey Lyles. Yep, that makes sense.
So that would work. I don't know what the Kings would send. We'll see. The only other rumor of the day, as far as I know it, and then I'll check in with you, see if you've heard anything else, is an article from. It's actually, I think this article dropped when we were finishing up last night, from James Edwards III of The Athletic, covers the Pistons, said the Knicks, along with the Lakers and Bucks, right? Bucks had been, interested in Bojan Bogdanovic, which that's interesting. He's a good player, player, good player. That's it. Anything else that you want to start at the outside? I want to say one thing on the Nets trade from last night, the Kevin Durant trade and the Lakers trade, but I'll turn it to you first.
Yeah, well, I guess working backwards, the Bogdanovic deal doesn't make a ton of sense to me considering they've added Hart. Moving forward with that, I it's funny because last night I was messaging with Fred and what we were saying was, I said to him how a lot of people are going to be staying up tonight because they're just in awe of the fact that Kevin Durant was traded. And I'm the type of psychopath who's going to be up trying to figure out how Derrick Rose gets to Milwaukee. So we were two peas in a pod in that sense, but a lot of chaos. I'm really fascinated to see how this goes. Something has to give. They're just a lot of moving parts here. The fact that I don't know, it was quiet for a moment. Now we've seen some minor trades, but it always comes down to the price. What's the
Yeah.
cost of something? And I don't know if we
Yeah.
want to get into if we want to keep burying the lead any longer. I just want to say so on Tuesday, there was a report, and it was from Alex Kennedy about how the Knicks, the Lakers, and the Mavs are among teams with interest in Zach LaVine. And mind you, Woj has already reported about LaVine. Ian
What
Begley
was
has
that,
reported about
several
it
weeks
a couple
ago,
of
I think?
years. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's out there, right? Like this is something that's not new. And on Tuesday, I messaged our good friend Prez, and I said, like, not so much suggesting this, but I wonder if this is a target for the summer because once RJ's poison pill is expired, the math of RJ and Fournier salary works almost perfectly for LaVine. Like it's off by $1 million, but it works just like that. And thinking of draft pick comp, what that would look like, all these various things. I didn't think that we'd get to this point today. I thought
Well,
this was maybe something we'd evaluate in the summer. But it's just very timely, I guess. It's just, listen, we were talking about it last night, and maybe we can save it in the event that it's actually traded or that, someone like RJ is actually traded. But it didn't feel like a reassuring thing in terms of where RJ's standing was. The Knicks do want someone who has a little bit more pull-up gravity, especially at the 2, but it really depends on who's going to be there because RJ's, he's a wing's able to play next to Grimes. A lot of things going on there, but yeah, it's about cost. It's really it. And I don't love LaVine as a player. I think the way that, well, I'll save it for when. I'll say is if the Knicks don't trade for LaVine, they could reevaluate in the summer. The same reason where how KCP that deal went with the Wizards, and with the Nuggets. It's the framework being laid down. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, and maybe then this is summer.
I do just want to say regarding the math of it, as I know you already did as well, you can make it work. As far it's Fournier, Rose, who I'm sure if they did a trade with the Bulls, that Derrick Rose would be going back to Chicago.
Yeah.
You'd need Fournier in there for salary purposes. You could put RJ in, and then what that does is create a massive amount of outgoing money, not a massive. I mean, it does create a massive amount of outgoing money for the Knicks. Creates a whole lot more incoming money for the Bulls. You could get there as far as matching by doing LaVine, Alex Caruso, who has there been a report that the Knicks have checked in on Caruso? I forget if
I feel like it's moot now with Hart on the team. Right?
Well, yeah.
Wouldn't they share a similar archetype in that sense?
They would
not less on the offensive side, but certainly defensive.
Yeah. And one more small salary, I think $1 million gets you there. So it wouldn't have to be a lot. And then whatever the draft compensation is. But again, even that, as you said, it's a lot of moving parts. So who knows? And then the issue. So again, it's not impossible, but the issue with building any of these sorts of trades, if you then go like, all right, well, then the Knicks will send out another, whatever, throw an Obi in the deal. Well, that changes the math, and then you got to account for that. So it is complicated. It is a lot easier to do in the summer. I think it's entirely possible they do a LaVine deal without including RJ. Would you be? Let me ask you this: would you be more surprised if they did one with RJ now, before the deadline, not the summer, with RJ or without RJ?
At this point, I'd be more surprised if they did it without RJ, just based on the fact, it's like, well, where is he? How is he playing? Like, there's a usage thing.
How many balls are there on the court?
Right, there's only one, and it's sort of thing where you could benefit. Like, are you reducing him to the role that he had with the We Here season? That seems like a trickier thing to do. He's going to feel squeezed out. There are only so many minutes to go by. The Knicks clearly love quickly. They love Grimes. At a certain point, like, I'm not comfortable trading either of those players for Zach LaVine. I'm not saying that they are untouchable. I'm saying for Zach LaVine, no interest in trading them. The Houston Rockets are sending Eric Gordon to the Clippers. Wow, goes back to the Clippers. Interesting.
Oh yeah, that's right. He started his career there, right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, but yes, it's just a lot. I'd be surprised if RJ were still here based on how everything would fit. Yeah.
I'm curious what the return is because the Clippers do have a distant first round pick that they could trade, and I don't think they have a whole lot of seconds left to trade. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the Rockets caved and are going to settle for like a second round pick or 2 second round picks. We'll see.
Well, I'm just thinking salary wise, it's either Kennard or it's Jackson.
I mean, they wouldn't trade Powell.
No. Oh, well, it could be Covington. They could be trading Covington.
They need more. It has to be Covington. How much? What does Covington make? I thought he made. Does he make 14 or like 10? I forget.
I think it's like 11.
So then it would be Covington. 14. So you can do Covington and Wall. Can they? Oh wait, can Wall be traded? Can Wall be traded back to Houston?
I
don't know. We're speculating about this. I'm sure it'll be reported soon. Just regarding the RJ thing, like the notion from a basketball. First of all, who's defending on that team? Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, Zach LaVine, and Julius Randle. I mean, I just hate
multi-team
deal. Okay, I just don't like the basketball fit at all, and people are probably, me, resident RJ hater, are going to be like, oh, but I bet you love the basketball fit if you removed RJ and then put in somebody else in his place, and all of a sudden the basketball fit's going to be great. No. And this is my greater issue with the LaVine thing is like, so much like Julius, I mean, talk about two guys who are, for as much as their games are different, are similar in a lot of ways, supremely talented basketball players, right? Julius Randle, Zach LaVine. We've seen them be components to winning. Zach LaVine was an all-star last season, and the Bulls were in first place 40 or 50 games into the year. I mean, that was the thing that happened. So it's not like it can't happen. It can happen, but it's precarious. What?
I'm sorry. Kennard to the Grizzlies. And hey, for whatever it's worth, if we interrupt each other announcing trades,
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, everything's fair game.
Interesting. So because the Grizzlies were not rumored to be like on OG Anunoby, but there was speculation as to whether the Grizzlies would get in on a potential OG Anunoby deal. I wonder what that.
If Kennard's going to the Grizzlies, do we think Danny Green's leaving?
Has to be. It's the only salary. Or I mean, I don't think they're trading Brooks out.
John Wall is going to the Grizzlies, right? No, the Rockets are acquiring John Wall, so they have more money more dead money they'll eat.
For John Wall, that's fantastic. Yeah, so like LaVine and Randle on the same court just worries me because I hate calling players like low hoops IQ players because I don't think that's true. I don't think Randle's a low hoops IQ player. I don't think LaVine is a low hoops IQ player. I think they are players that they are better in certain roles, and the more you give them, they're perhaps maybe diminishing returns. Not in terms of shots. Both players can take a ton of shots, but like I hope people get a sense of what I'm talking about here, and that would worry me. That's all.
The way I see it, and I'll break the own rule that I impose, was, hey, if the Knicks trade for LaVine, but I think there's going to be so much chaos happening, I'd rather say it in a moment of calm.
Sure.
The way that I see it, if the Knicks were to make a move to get LaVine, I don't believe they feel he is, hey, when we are a contender, Zach LaVine's on this team. I think the way that they see 100%. It is we want to turn what we have into something better. And then a few years from now, we want to turn LaVine into something even better than that.
Or even
the problem with that is you need to ensure that LaVine is healthy enough and that his knee is not a problem, because that's the number one thing. If you have difficulty moving his contract and you're giving up assets to acquire him, and then he hurts you later, then that's a problem. But what I am very curious about from Chicago's perspective, are they going to view this contract as a positive, as neutral, or as negative? Because
LaVine's
correct. Because if they view it as, oh, he'll be fine, then that means that the Knicks would have to pay more of a premium.
Yep.
Okay, there's Danny Green. He's going to Houston.
Good
There
call.
it is. Well, it was expiring money. He's barely played, but all right.
But they've been
I would
talking up
imagine
how we like Danny Green, veteran presence, the whole nonsense.
that's why they were talking it up.
That's why. Yeah.
So that's where I stand in the Levine conversation. For the moment, it's all about how do we get better to eventually get to the next step. We talked about it yesterday. It's not A to B, it's A to Q or A to Z or whatever letter you want to talk about. Stepping stone. It's just, again, all depends on price. And there's an opportunity cost as well, which has to be factored in.
Thank you. That was the other. Yeah. I mean, you covered it. There's an opportunity cost. Obviously, the more, well, almost regardless of what you give up, there is an opportunity cost because you now have Zach LaVine here, and you cannot just assume that he will be as easy to flip, perhaps depending on how things go, as you alluded to, as the salary that you have, because again, the health thing is an issue. If you paired those three players, to say nothing of if you paired RJ with those three players, if you just paired LaVine with Brunson and Randall, I mean, you would need to insulate that team with just a whole lot of defense and a whole lot of really good role players who buy into their roles and accept their roles and are good at their roles. Yeah. I don't know that I have much else to say right now. Yeah, I think we covered it for now. Let's wait and see what happens, because speculating on something that has been like lightly reported just feels like maybe a little bit of a little premature.
Yeah.
The Lakers and let's go back to Kevin Durant. So I think I said this last night. If I didn't, I should have. That like I saw people praising the Lakers trade as like a good trade for them, and I agree, it is good value in a vacuum. But at the same time, it's like, well, but they still won't win a championship. And to me, it's like, okay, well, is something a good trade for a team that is very, very, very much built to win now if it doesn't get you where you want to go? And maybe it does. Who knows? I think the Nets thing is kind of like a cousin to that point that I made, in that I think the Nets did well with the Kevin Durant trade. I think they got back. It seems pretty clear that Joe Tsai, the owner of the Nets, had no. What do we got here? Clippers are trading.
Well, it'd be the Lakers.
Right?
Yeah. Pat
Lakers
Bev's
trading
on the Lakers,
Pat Bev.
on the Clippers anymore, Shams.
Yeah, I'm sure. Hopefully, he'll get that right. Yeah. So anyway, it's Beverly to the Magic from Mo Bamba. Interesting. That's, man, there's a different looking Lakers roster in a few days. So yeah, it seems like Joe Tsai didn't have an appetite to take this into the summer, didn't have an appetite to try to navigate the rough waters of negotiating with teams who maybe knew that Kevin Durant didn't want to go to their team and how that process would play out. All that and whatever, which is fine. That's within his right. And considering all of that, and considering that Durant clearly wanted to be a Sun to get what he got, I think he did pretty well. That said, I don't like last week, a week ago today, I think you could have talked yourself into the Nets being a championship contender. After Kyrie, pre-Durant trade, you could still maybe talk yourself into it, depending on like, ooh, do they have a Van Vliet move in them? Do they have another move in them? They felt like they were still one move away. Now that conversation is over. The Nets are not a championship contender. There is no more conversation. So it's like they did very well, much like the Lakers did very well, but you're changing the direction of your franchise. So that is what it is. It just is what it is.
Yeah. Again, the moment that Woj tweeted out about that Durant and the Nets are trying to figure out what their situation would be in terms of how to move forward, it just screamed, this isn't going to work. And then the fact that he added that the Suns over the summer were interested and they've just bought a new owner, like that to me was a clear attempt at the Nets using Woj to leverage the trade market. And no one came close. And you have a new owner, new governor, who basically just first move, biggest trade in franchise history. or other than maybe Charles Barkley. And I think you could actually argue this is probably, well,
Ooh, I mean, well,
it's up for
with
debate.
Barkley, you traded for a guy who won an MVP with your franchise.
Yes. So that's a high bar. They still went to the finals
Into
in
the finals.
92, 93.
Yep. First
So,
finals since the 70s.
yeah, as
Yeah.
Andrew says, it's 1 and 1A. Agreed.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I think the Nets, they're going to be
Oh,
they're
interesting.
going to be average to good, which in a league where grade is important, like they have assets and they're not going to bottom out. There's no reason for them to, especially with the Rockets owning their picks. And I think that's also yes, there's an inherent danger with giving up 4 first round picks and 3 pick swaps to try to get somewhere. But I think the fact of the matter is a lot of these teams are able to get out of that hole because they can just, again, they're comfortable being mid for a little bit, and the picks themselves are just not great.
Yep.
And then it validates it. It's like, well, at least we didn't give up this. So I think the Nets are in an okay spot. But relatively speaking, like you said, you could talk yourself into them being a contender. You can't do that anymore. And the moment Kyrie left, all of the pressure was on Kevin Durant, and the praise would have been great because he would have done it. Like if they won a title, he would have been the guy. Look at everything he went through. Had Harden, he left. Had Kyrie, he left. Got Ben Simmons in the door. Like all these different things. When the going gets tough ever been something that Kevin Durant has appreciated? Like he's always taken an easier route, and that's fine. He's open to do that. That is his prerogative. He likes playing with the best talent available, and I don't blame him. If I were a basketball player and I were one of the best in my game, I would want to play with the best talent too. I'm not faulting him for it. But when Kyrie left, I mean, what were we doing? Trying to get Siakam in the door, so maybe he extends. Like it all felt so.
It was a stretch.
Exactly, and denial isn't just a river in Egypt, John. I have a good friend who's a Nets fan. I was telling him all week, like, these tweets are weird. You have to acknowledge it. It's a nothing burger. He's not moving, bro. Don't worry about it.
I was wrong. I didn't think he was moving.
Well, I didn't think it was going to happen now. I thought maybe in the summer, like a lot of people also thought. No. And then this morning he said, when asked if he's okay, he said, "LOL, no, I'm in shambles," which he's the most optimistic person I know. So you can tell this crushed him, and I'm sure a lot of other Nets fans.
I wouldn't be crushed if I was a Nets fan. I actually, like, after the drama of the last several years, like, I think they'll be a fun team.
Fun isn't the goal. When you go from a clean sweep with Durant and Irving, and then you trade a lot of your depth for Harden, and you have to deal with all this drama. Yes, it's a relief because you don't have to deal with a lot of this anymore. But also, you have to recognize: are we getting marquee free agents? Josh Richardson to the Pelicans.
Well, they got 2 marquee free agents once upon a time. I don't know if they're going to get any more. Yeah, but Josh Richardson to the Pelicans. He's a good player. He'll help them. He'll play for them.
My guess, and I could be wrong, Devontae Graham. The money would work. The Pelicans get out of long-term salary.
Steve Popper, by the way, just tweeted out, latest I've heard, and you can trust Popper if he tweets something like this out, is no talk in New York of Zach LaVine. But since there are lots of voices at MSG and everyone seems to be getting traded in the last hour, who knows? I am going to take that as the fact that Zach LaVine is probably not getting traded to the Knicks. No. Pelicans trading Devontae Graham's contract. It's far more Devontae Graham's contract at this point than Devontae Graham. And 4 seconds to San Antonio. Again, all these seconds.
Yeah.
Wild. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, Durant. Back to Durant just for 1 second, and then we'll move on since it doesn't seem like there's anything else going on with the Knicks at the moment. I think there was a sentiment, maybe not a large portion of the fan base, maybe it was a very small portion of the fan base that I just happened to take notice of in the last 24 or however many hours, 12 hours, that were peeved / curious as to why it's like, okay, the Knicks didn't make the Donovan Mitchell trade because they were saving their powder. It needed maybe a better superstar. Durant comes available. Put Durant on this team with, like, next to, if you could put him next to Julius Randle and the whole thing. And my response has been, like, if Kevin Durant doesn't want to come here, Joe Tsai is certainly not going to like sent him here of all places. And it doesn't really matter what you could have offered. And by the way, the Knicks like best offer, I don't know how much better the Knicks best offer would have been over and above the Suns offer. I mean, we could sit here and quibble about, the value of Quentin Grimes versus, Mikal Bridges and so on and so forth. But like, I think that's a non-starter. It's not something I even gave a second thought to. I just wanted to toss that out before, because it is. I feel like it was a discussion point amongst some segments of the fan base.
Yeah, as once a Knick, always a Knick. Kevin Knox goes to the Warriors.
Hey,
I agree with you.
How about if he wins a championship this year with the Golden State Warriors?
Hey, that would extend the. There has been a Knick in the finals for consecutive years, so that works.
Yeah.
That's a nice streak. It'd be nicer if the Knicks themselves were able to just be in the finals and maintain that streak.
Before I'm dead, preferably.
No, but I mean, listen, like that's the thing about this team. Let me back up. It's one thing to be saying, okay, I can't believe the Knicks didn't trade for Donovan Mitchell to then turn around and trade for Zach LaVine. It's another thing to talk about the same package that's being offered for one versus the other. That is a very distinct difference, because Emmanuel Quickley has turned into a phenomenal player. He would not be here. I understand you'd have Donovan Mitchell. I get it. But when you look at how impactful Emmanuel Quickley is to this team, and I just think about the bench and everything with how garbage it would be, he's been crucial. But in terms of the Nets, I mean, not to throw a stray at you right here, but as we've talked about, like you are older than the last time the Knicks and the Nets traded with each other.
Thank you for that reminder.
You are welcome. I won't say how many years. I'm just going to say you were. Well,
it had to be before 1983.
Well, okay, you're outing yourself as your age.
It's fine.
Whatever.
I don't mind.
Okay. Well, yes. Last time was June 22nd, 1983, and you're May 1983. May what 10th?
May 10th, 1983. Yeah.
There you go.
So it's not. It's a non-starter. It just is. The Knicks are clearly very active in talks right now. I wonder, after getting Hart, do they feel like they're good? We could just take this to the summer. Like we feel good about our team, because like we left off last night, and I think both of us felt like something else was going to come, and Fred wrote about this. Fred Katz of The Athletic wrote about this like a couple weeks ago in like his 9 questions ahead of the deadline piece. And I think the first question is like, what are the Knicks' priorities? And I'm sitting here right now. If you were like gun to my head, I don't know that I could provide a clean, simple answer to that question. I could say a lot of things of like, well, they want to do this, but like if you always should like boil it down to one sentence, I'm not sure that I could do it, or I would feel good about it, like being accurate.
Yeah. Well, they're a team that they're not going to be pushed around because they know time's on their side. And for a lot of people, they might think like, well, what's the plan, right? You have to get a star in the door. Yeah, I mean, they know that. They know that's eventually the sort of thing, but they don't have to do it now. And as you see all these other teams engaging in an arms race, you don't maybe want to rush the process, right? Like maybe they saw Anunoby as being too expensive for where they're at. So they said, cool, we can get someone who's cheaper. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And we feel that he can provide some of the same value. So they did it. There's no rush. That like they've made an improvement. They don't have to do it. And as a side note, as we are 30 minutes away from the deadline, I think it's really funny that with Mo Bamba on the Lakers and the Timberwolves will be playing twice this year. And if Austin Rivers is still a member of the Timberwolves,
oh my goodness,
I'm watching both those games, because that would just, the tea would be incredible. Get your popcorn ready, do everything.
All right. Well, on that note, do we want to take some comments, questions, things of that nature? I imagine we have a robust crowd here that is probably wondering some things about what's going on. So
yeah,
why don't we get into that? Starting with Moscow Drug Mule, great name. John and Jeremy, first time, long time. Yes.
Can I just add, this one jumped in this one was before the stream started.
Okay.
So this is around 1:30 when this came in.
Cool. What are your thoughts on trading Derrick Rose? What would be the best destination for him? What kind of return would be ideal? Go Knicks. I think they want to try to parlay Derrick Rose into something. Because I don't think it is likely at this point that they are going to pick up his option next year, especially having now just traded for Josh Hart and needing to pay Josh Hart next season. I don't find that to be likely. I think they want to move him, and I think they'd rather try to get something for him. I don't know what they could get. So, yeah.
I'd say expiring salary for the tax reasons you're alluding to. Wherever he wants to be, I think is ideal for the Knicks in terms of they will try to make it work if they can get the pieces to go through. Yeah, it'd be nice to turn him into something that's more useful of a player. Absolutely. An alternate route is the Knicks could decide to get more second-round picks. If it were a team like Sacramento, they certainly have that available. But yeah, ideally, I'd like to see Rose be used to upgrade the roster. I'd be comfortable with the idea of just getting something in return. Second-round picks, if that's the case, not my preference. Make the team better.
Jake Fisher just reported that the Pacers are going to have to waive Terry Taylor to clear space for their deal with the Bucks. I like Terry Taylor. He's a good little player. If we have bench spots, that's a guy that I wouldn't mind giving us bench spot to.
I got one name just very quickly for a bench spot.
Who?
Eric Paschal.
Oh, did he get? Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Villanova guy.
Yeah.
Knicks were interested this summer,
Good call.
right,
Good
with
call.
Donovan Mitchell, and he waited for a bit. So if they have the spot, he'd make some sense.
Andrew's also telling me this is actually the older super chat. This one came in before we started. Meet Maravich. The Knicks front office paid our players, signed Brunson to an expensive contract, now traded for Brunson's friend, making him happy. Sends a message that says, play here and we'll take care of you. I'm 100% okay with that. I think, look, Wes, it was reported that at the time that all of these guys were hired by Yaron Weissman did a lot of this reporting. Like the Knicks are trying to build themselves as a family, and that family has certain ties. It has ties, many different sorts of ties, agency ties, college ties. All these ties. I think that's how they like it. I wonder though, what happens if you're on the Knicks and you feel like you're not? Does everybody feel like they're part of the family? That's what I would wonder, which is like there could be a good and a bad side to this.
Yeah, like the implication of family is that they're content just their little cohort. No, they want to build a good team, but foster a lot of the same beliefs here, and the goal is to be good. It's not, have family is never. It's not great to mix business and pleasure in that sense. So yeah, they want to take care of players, but you got to be good in order for you to be taken care of. And the Knicks are taking the next step. Connections are everything, as you're saying. In this world, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And Knicks know a lot of people. It extends pretty far. So, and in comes one Villanova player, out goes another.
Yeah.
Sorry, Archie.
Well said. Thanks, Meet Maravich. James Choi, points on Josh Hart. Another floor raiser, 3.9 assists, third on the team instantly. Helps late game, can inbound instead of Jalen Brunson. Another handler who isn't afraid, in parentheses, Grimes, helps our fast break, and a great locker room guy. I think you nailed a lot of good points. I was trying to watch as much, I hate saying tape. That makes me sound far more fancier than I am. Like just going on YouTube and watching like condensed games of Portland games from like beginning to end. He does a lot of little things. He's a really good screen setter. He is really good in transition, as you pointed out last night, Jeremy. And not only finishing transition. I was watching a highlight clip or tape of a game they played recently in the last week or two, and he was in transition and threw a perfect lob pass from probably 30 feet out or so, maybe 25, 30 feet out to, I forget which of Portland's athletic big wings, but like perfect pass, flushed it right on the break, in stride, ducks in from the corner. Ace Zulo had a great package of clips earlier today that he put out about he's how good of a cutter he is. We know about the offensive rebounding, and I think it needs to be said, coming into this season, career 41% shooter from the corners. This season, it has not been great. He's like 32% from the corners this season. And the other thing is he hasn't shot a lot of corner threes this year. He shot a lot more in years past. Not a ton, but more. I wonder if they'll want him to fire away from the corner if he's open when he gets here. I would imagine they would.
Yeah. All great points to add on. This season's 79th percentile in assist percentage and 96th percentile in assist to usage ratio. That's fantastic. Of course, the flip side, high turnover rate, 11th percentile in turnover percentage. But yeah, the more I think about this as well, like I analyzed what sending out protected first round picks usually gets you and mentioned how Herter is the type of guy that gets you a protected first round pick. Same with Jeremy Grant. Malcolm Brogdon's another name. Like Hart fits right in with that crowd where he's a good player, good rotation piece, costs you a protected first round pick. That's fine. We can talk about what Cam should have or what we were hoping he would be. That's kind of moot right now. It's what he is. And what he is outside of the rotation. He now gets a chance to play in Portland. On the surface level, first thought, wasn't super keen on it. The more I've dug into it, the more I found things I really enjoy. So I'm happy with it.
I like it. Thanks, James. Excited to watch him play. I'll reiterate what I said last night. Robert Cross, note to GMAC. Oh, this must be Robert Cross's least favorite day of the year. If the Knicks trade for Zach LaVine, you may live stream me throwing my TV out the window on the February Patreon town hall. Hashtag 53 wins. Can we get that in writing?
Yes. Need your signature, Robert.
This is a great tweet. As we get the next super chat up there, Mark K, who covers the Bulls, tweeted a little while ago. I'm convinced the Bulls could trade Zach LaVine for Derrick Rose and a second rounder, and half the fan base would rejoice. Obviously, he's being facetious because the money doesn't work there, but that tells you what Bulls fans think of Zach LaVine, or some Bulls fans think of Zach LaVine. Now, is that completely unfair, given what many Knicks fans, including myself, thought of Julius Randle not too long ago? And some still think of Julius Randle, Hamdi M, what the heck is going on with the NBA? How could we focus on work with all this going on? Can we make the trade deadline a national holiday? Love it. I would be in favor of that. Kind of is a holiday for us.
It is. Yeah.
Working holiday.
for a 2-hour holiday for me before I go back to work.
There you go. Before I go get my daughter from daycare. From Jersey, Bay for 5 second rounders means OG to Golden State. Yeah, that was I think who had that? Was that
Shams
Fisher
tweeted
that
about
what?
Shams said that OG
Shams,
was
thank you. Yeah.
Interest for the Warriors.
Oh boy. You want to talk about a Western Conference arms race? I would assume that would be the nice thing about OG. It doesn't make that much, so you could probably do Kuminga, Moody. I don't know what Toronto's salary situation or roster spot situation is, but you could probably do Kuminga, Moody, and I think you might need a little bit more money. But Warriors have some firsts to trade. That would be wild.
Mason Plumlee to the Clippers.
Oh,
that's probably Reggie Jackson, right? Because he's the only guy who doesn't have expiring salary, or who does have expiring salary, right? I don't see why the Hornets would have traded an expiring player's salary for a non-expiring,
especially when they're very cheap.
And they have to pay PJ Washington this year, and he who shall not be named is also a candidate to be paid as well.
Oh, yes.
LaMelo Ball.
Hey, good job by you, Reggie Jackson. Well done, sir. Tip of the cap. Kevin Danishevsky, I'd be okay if RJ went out for LaVine. I'm shocked, Kevin.
Yeah. Wow.
To be clear, I would need to know what else was in the trade and if there was really any material draft compensation. I would almost certainly really dislike it. Even not even considering that, I'm not sure. And again, I'm lower on RJ than a lot of people, but LaVine, man, it's not my cup of tea. Get a star without having to pay a premium. But if Quentin Grimes goes out, I will fume. Another ball dominant, no defense guy with RJ. Yeah.
I guess what does having to pay a premium mean, right? Like, it wouldn't just be RJ. There'd be other assets involved. But hey, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
And like,
if we get to it,
$40 million a year in its own sense, just the literal money that you're paying him that is a lot of money. For a guy that I wonder if there are just front offices out there who are like, yeah, we don't want to be in the Zach LaVine business. Regardless of anything else. Sam Garcia, I don't want any part of LaVine. Appropriately timed comment there. Thank you, Sam Garcia.
Does the whole Garcia family feel that way?
I'll need
We need an answer.
I'll need a full accounting of everybody's
mom,
opinions.
dad, yeah.
Roommate. Hush Zoo, is RJ possibly in a deal for LaVine? Do you need a third team? As we went through, you don't need a third team. Third team might make things easier, but yeah, you don't. Bobby Lynch, 5 second rounders for LaVine, guys. The Wiseman thing, man, it's amazing. This freaking team can maybe trade for OG Anunoby. I think we could agree they probably have enough to trade for OG Anunoby. Whether they want to or not is up to them. And I don't know, would they be title favorites? They'd be on the short list. And after winning the championship last year, and they bumblefucked that pickup so badly with Wiseman. It's amazing. You don't have to be perfect, obviously, to win in the NBA.
Yeah. I gotta say, though, seeing all these second round picks be traded, like, I can't help but think about when the Knicks use second round picks to get into the draft and how everyone kind of freaked out. And now we're just seeing the value. It just, I don't know. There's a disconnect there that bothers me, but I'll deal with that on my own. Like they weren't, they have no value, but they have some value, and then they're great. Like it's just whatever.
Yeah, I think that's an article I'd read, like the value of second round picks in the NBA, because like it seems like there maybe is not a whole lot of consensus, and we should maybe spend more time thinking about that, which apparently you will. Thanks, Bobby. Ryan Huang, what's going on, Ryan? Greetings from Japan at now past 4 a.m. God bless you. This was not one of my brightest decisions, but I can't sleep when we're under an hour from mortgaging the future for LaVine. Shake my head. Over under 0.5 Knicks traded by 3. Not counting Cam. I will go. I mean, Jesus, we're 16 minutes away. I'll go over with very little conviction.
I'll be a contrarian and go under.
Yeah, I figured you would.
But hey, one of us will be right.
One of us will be right. DJ MKC, Zach would be Amare 2.0. Bad legs for over $200 million. I mean, you might not be wrong. I think back to the again, not perfectly analogous, but the Clippers trading Blake Griffin, when it was clear after they signed that contract that they maybe wanted to move on. And again, seems like the Bulls are not very married to Zach LaVine. Thanks, DJ. Manny Campos. If the Knicks get LaVine and it costs us RJ/Obi and picks that aren't their own, is it a bad move? Still leaves us with ammo to make another move down the line. I need to see what the picks are. So I guess okay. So you're asking all the protected picks, RJ, Obi, and salary. If that was the trade, what say you, Jeremy? I'm a little bit on
protected
the fence.
picks. Which ones are we talking about?
So let's say 3 of the 4.
3 of the 4. Okay. Well, again, I'm not trying to be a stickler, but like, so do the Knicks now not have a pick in this year's draft? Because
that's interesting. Which again, even if they did not, once the draft passes, they could still trade for first-round picks. Just to be clear about that.
I will say this: if it's the non-Mavericks pick, it's a lot. It's probably too much. Probably Are you moving Fournier?
Yeah.
But see, I think that I'll put it this way. I think that Obi, the way they value Obi would imply that this would be too much, right? Because they're looking for draft equity with Obi. Levine's a good player. We can't talk about the player without talking about the contract and the injuries and the fact that he does not have a successful track record as a quote unquote winning player.
I was about to say you can't talk about the player without talking about the player.
And
like he's not his stats. Like there's more going on here. You know, it's not to cut you off, but like
Chris Haynes saying no deal for John Collins because no one wants him and the Hawks don't want to give up anything to get rid of him. So their season of mid continues. But Manny, to answer your question, I feel pretty uncomfortable with that. I understand you keep your unprotected picks. It's great. It seems like a lot.
It's the sort of trade that there's a part of me that would be like, you got to do that trade. And if we did the trade, I'd be like, I don't really like this. And it's not even that I dislike Levine that much. Like I don't know that I want to root for him on my basketball team.
I get it.
You know,
so entering Tuesday, for whatever it's worth, in his last 32 games, Levine was averaging 25, 5, and 4 on 49, 39, 85 splits. That's really good. That's phenomenal.
It's good.
But that's not the concern. The concern is what happens a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when you're paying someone who's paid like a serious all-star with a max contract. And there's a lot of max contracts out there, but this is a rough one with the injury. You're paying him for less than that production. You're paying that for someone who's also turning 28, I believe, this month or next month. It's just, I got to know it. I got to see it. I'll know it when I see it.
And it's also, there's a different type of opportunity cost, which is like if you're trading for Zach LaVine, you're trading for Zach LaVine to have the ball in his hands a lot. Like that is who Zach LaVine is. He's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. There is the opportunity cost of if the ball in his hands, and I get he's a very efficient player, but like, what does that mean for you in the larger ecosystem? And the trickle down effect, and and again, but as you said, it could be it probably almost certainly would be, or at least in their hope, a stepping stone to something else. So,
yeah, I'm sorry. I know this is the NBA trade deadline, but I think the Rangers just made a trade.
Seriously?
For
Tarasenko.
Vladimir Tarasenko of the St. Louis Blues.
Bravo, New York Rangers.
You don't have to know who that is, John. A lot of you won't care about hockey, but it's just funny to me that on the day of a major trade deadline for one MSG team, the other one got Tarasenko.
Got much better too. Yeah, much better too.
That's enough hockey talk for right now, but
okay,
just funny.
Let's keep it going. We're almost to DJ here. Lunas and Marat. Very thankful that my boss is also a huge NBA fan. Good job by him. Mars Paskov. Can we take a minute to laugh at the Nets? I think we did that already.
Yeah.
Jeremy made a good point, and also I agree with John. I actually like what the Nets have done with the pieces. The ceiling being what it is now is gone. But Jeremy made a good point. Let's get past 3:00 first. Mm-hmm. Then maybe we'll take a minute.
Hey, let's get past 3:10. You know,
whatever.
Baseball.
Let's get. I agree.
Ken Rosenthal,
you know
John
my
Heyman,
point. You know
Jeff
the point I'm
Passanel
making.
100%.
Let the dust settle.
Yes.
And if the Nets are no longer contenders after the city went under new management, then we can celebrate the fall of the empire then. So there you
go. Thank you, Mars. Lunas and Marat wanted to say something that between Donovan last summer and then doing a cheap deal with LA, that if I end up in hell, the first thing I'm doing is hunting down Danny Ainge.
That's great, but I'm sorry, just the woj of Gary Payton going back to the Warriors, and they're using 5 second-round picks.
I didn't know the Warriors had. Oh wait,
they got it from Sadiq Bey? So they just turned Sadiq Bey. They just turned Wiseman into Gary Payton.
They turned James Wiseman. Oh my God, James Wiseman into Gary Payton.
So they basically paid 5 second-round picks to trade Wiseman for the player that they had in the building and then let go to Portland and now is back with their team. That's some next level 60
late years ahead.
Yeah.
The Warriors are routing Kevin Knox to the Blazers via multi-team deal with the Pistons.
Look at that. Kevin Knox and Cam Reddish. Two peas in the pod.
Oh my God.
Teammates. They were traded for each other and now they're teammates. Incredible.
Amazing.
They can both say, "Hey, remember how we were in New York? Yeah, that wasn't a great experience. Remember we were in Atlanta? Yeah, that was also not a great experience."
I'm sure they're going to reflect glowingly on that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lunas. I hear you, by the way. That was good comment. Brian Benjamin, I don't want injury-plagued Zach LaVine or Bogdanovich. We're not win now ready yet. I'm already afraid Tibbs might play heart more than IQ because he loves vets. He likes winning players. Emmanuel Quickley is a winning player, has become an instrumental winning player for him of late. He's going to play guys that help him win. Usually that's veteran players. Right now it's Emmanuel Quickley. I'm not terribly worried right now.
Agreed. And also the Knicks are win now. They're just not win now by any means necessary. Like their goal is to win. It's not win or else. Don't mean to nitpick. I think there's a clear distinction because they want to win games and they're going to do that now that they've made the Josh Hart trade. At least that's the intention. So we've got 7 minutes.
Mythic Monty. Did Durant did Durant pairing up with Kevin known Knicks target Devin Booker make the front office reevaluate which stars will become available in the near future? So LaVine. That's a bridge a little bit too far for me. That is a bridge way too far for me. I don't think.
Good news. Ian Begley on Zach LaVine. Knicks communicated to someone earlier this afternoon that trade for LaVine was highly unlikely to happen. So there we go.
Interesting.
I'll say this for Durant and Booker and all of that. I think if you're a Knicks fan, you are rooting for this type of trade to happen because the Suns window is the duration of Durant's contract, which is through 2026. Maybe something happens before then where he's like the team blows up. It's going to be hard for them to retool, but right now they don't have a lot of ways to build the team better. There's not a ton of depth. Like to me, this is a squad in Phoenix that is built for the next 2 to 3 years. What happens after that? That's where, but then that's the issue, right? I'm sitting here saying to fans, "Oh, well, maybe you can wait 2 to 3 more years," and I'm sure fans are like, "No, we're not waiting that long." So you don't bank on a player like Devin Booker to say, "All right, our window's closed. I want to get out of here." But it's something to consider. It's something to think about. They don't have to push their chips to the middle of the table right now. They've got time. Evaluate it in a few years, and if something better comes up, go for it.
Well said. Forgotten NYC, Detroit stocking up on lotto busts, LOL. Well, so wait, Wiseman is in Detroit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Along with
Marvin Bagley,
Jalen Duren, and Isaiah Stewart.
I don't know if Duren we can get there, but yeah. Well, they had Kevin Knox.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of size.
It is. That's what Weaver loves. He loves those, reclamation projects and larger players. Good luck to him.
Yeah, I guess. Thanks, Forgotten. Batman, I think I'm pronouncing that correct. Hi from the UK, longtime follower. Want to say great work and thanks for being my daily Knicks fix. Tough to get good ball talk in the countryside here. Well, thank you for making us part of your regular palate. I don't know. No, not palate. Palate's the wrong word. Your regular whatever you consume. I clearly can't talk because I'm going on 3.5 hours sleep. Should be a fun rest of the day for me.
Mm-hmm.
But the countryside. I like when people from the UK refer to it as the countryside. It makes it feel like someplace I really want to visit. Who doesn't
Yeah.
like going to the countryside?
It's beautiful. Lake District, all of it. It's great.
Big surge. Covington and a first for Toppin. Clippers get their new Blake. I don't know about that. And we get a veteran whose potential isn't wasting away behind Randall. I'm not in love with Covington. I think Covington is right where he needs to be in Clipperland. I don't think they're looking to recreate Lob City with the way they've assembled that team. I think I do. Look, we'll see if Obi Toppin gets moved in the next 4 minutes. Bones Highland, who is an imperfect offense first, very much an offense first, young player with 2.5 years left on his rookie deal, does not make any money. And he is seen by some as like not maybe a guy that you want on the floor. So the Nuggets obviously traded him because they didn't have confidence he was going to be able to be a big-time piece for them as they pursued a championship. So there's obviously a ceiling on that sort of player. But he's a guy who makes an impact. Went for 2 second-round picks. Now, I'm not trying to compare Obi Toppin to Bones Highland, very different players. But I think you would characterize Obi Toppin as a primarily offensive player in what he brings more than what he brings on the other end. And that if a team is trying to win a championship and trying to forecast, well, who are the guys that are going to play for me in like a high-level playoff series, I'm not sure that Obi Toppin, what he has shown thus far in the NBA, is such that you would have all the confidence in the world at that. So I think that valuation is interesting. And I think as we've heard over the last few days that the Knicks have talked to teams or whatever about Obi Toppin, and that I think there was a report that I saw somewhere today from Ian, it was from Ian, that they're asking prices very high. It does not shock me in the least that Obi Toppin is still here because I don't think anyone wants to pay that. And it may not be all about the fact that it's, the Knicks have completely ruined this player. I mean, other teams, they could watch the tape. They could visualize what might this player look like in our system.
They can't, though.
Really?
Again, if he's
Teams
playing one
stupid.
way, I'm not saying teams are stupid, but you're showing them what you are turning Obi into, not what Obi is capable of, right? Obi fits the role that Tibbs confines him to. And so when teams are looking at him, they can only really see what he's doing. They can imagine what else is there, but it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If someone like Tibbs says, I want you to play this way, and that's not the way Obi Toppin would be playing, he inherently loses value because he is that role, but he is more than that. And if you don't give him the opportunity to at least do more, this is why I wanted him to be dealt, because he's not going to be able to expand here.
I agree.
He's not much of a role, but his role is different from maybe what he has to offer. It might not be his full arsenal, and it's impossible for us to get a glimpse of that when he's only playing the role. And so he's being the good soldier. He's playing the role he's asked to play, but we can't visualize him in the context and say that's all that he is, because that's all that we see.
So
there's more to his game. There has always been more to his game coming into the NBA.
I agree. So if we're sitting here and saying that, why isn't a front office saying there's more to this guy? We have the tape. We've seen snippets of it throughout 2.5 years in the pros. Let's take a chance on that. It won't cost us a lot. We'll get him for a late first round pick.
But you're saying
or some equivalent.
You're saying it won't cost a lot, but now you're charging a higher amount, right? Like, of course, a team's going to sit there and say, we want to pry Obi Toppin away from the Knicks because we don't feel that they're valuing him in the way that he wants to be. That just may not be anywhere near what the Knicks are looking for, right? The Knicks could easily be looking for a late first round pick. How many of these teams are actually comfortable giving that up, considering what they're seeing? It could just be, hey, we want to screw the Knicks over because, hey, they're barely using Obi to begin with. We can get in there. We could turn something like that's their job. It's to take something that's lower in value, increase the value, and have it be better than that.
And my point is that for as much as they may be interested in screwing the Knicks over, they are far more interested in bettering their own situation. And if there was a team out there that looked at Obi Toppin, even only seeing what they see from him now, I think teams are smart enough and have enough foresight to, see beyond what they've actually seen from the player on the court and anticipate what might he be if he was used in this different scenario. And my point, like the fact that nobody is doing that, It's just interesting to me. That's all. It's
But
I'm not.
Look at how many teams have just traded second round picks, right? Like we saw all these players be traded for second round picks. And now we're talking about the idea of a late first round pick where it's like it's not there's a disconnect here. That's the issue. There's a value disconnect, and that's why I think the Knicks are responsible for getting Obi into the game more. That's how you do it.
Okay.
And I just don't see a path for them to do it.
I think this falls under a agree to disagree, but I hear what you're saying. Okay, it's 3. It doesn't mean we might not get any deals, although the fact that so little has come across the wire over the last few minutes leads me to believe we may be done. We'll see. Seems like the Knicks are not getting Zach LaVine, that is for sure, which I am not unhappy about if that is the case. Andrew, do we have want to get some more super chats in here?
I was typing in the chat. We have several more super chats, but because it's 3:00, I think people just tuned in as well. We just got a very nice jump in viewership. So how about we do a recap of what's happened so far today, or more specifically, what hasn't happened today.
So what hasn't happened today? So if you're just joining us now, perhaps with may have missed even last night. We woke up today. Josh Hart is a Knick. Cam Reddish is not a Knick. Knicks obviously sent out a lottery protected 2023 picks that immediately converts to a bunch of seconds. Speculation of the day, Zach LaVine. Report out of Chicago that they were talking about Zach LaVine last night, and then they revisited talks today. Reports out of New York, Steve Paparini and Begley in particular, are that perhaps the LaVine stuff was a little overblown in terms of any reports for that. And that's really it. There's been a ton of trades, but trades in which, like, who's the most significant difference-making player that was traded today? Memphis got, who did Memphis get again? They got some wing that's good.
What, Kennard?
Yes, Kennard.
Well, but he's been injured.
He has been injured. The fact that he's the first name, like,
is it Eric Gordon? Is it Jay Crowder?
So wait, Eric Gordon went to the
Clippers.
The Clippers. So the Clippers got Eric Gordon. The Bucks got Jay Crowder. You know, these are guys who are going to play 15 minutes a game for teams that are looking to, maybe 20 minutes a game, looking to win a title this year. Philadelphia got Jaden McDaniels from Charlotte, you know, but like the big moves happened last night. You know, the Rush trade, the KD trade, nothing else. You know, Bones Highland got moved. Like, I don't really know what else there is to say in terms of like recapping. It seems like there was a lot of talk and a lot of bigger names or bigger salaries that maybe people were thinking about moving. Guys like Christian Wood, John Collins, not coincidentally, 2 offense first guys who you kind of have to play them at the 5. They're not really 5s, like whatever. Like, didn't get moved. Interesting about that. Yeah. And that's where, and a ton of second round picks jumped around. And I guess the last thing I would say is that, again, unless things still change, Utah, a team that people had circled, is maybe looking to move out more parts. Toronto, a team that a lot of people had circled. Toronto, as we're sitting here now, they are buyers. They're just straight buyers. They bought Jakob Poeltl.
Yep.
Even though they're in 10th right now, you know, tied with Washington and a game in front of Indiana. So maybe it's not crazy that they're buyers. I don't know.
Well, I was just going to say, now that you brought up Toronto, like, detractors of the Knicks will say, what's their plan, right? And to me, their plan seems pretty obvious. They want to win games. They want to keep moving forward. They're looking for stars, but they're going to do it on their terms. They don't need to be rushed into something. Toronto, what is their plan? Because right now, if they have Poeltl, someone's going to the bench. And as we were talking about this, it's probably going to be Gary Trent Jr. because it's not going to be Siakam. It's not going to be Barnes. I don't see it being Anunoby. They have to re-sign Van Vliet because they didn't trade him. They have to hope for a sign and trade if they don't get that situation. Masai Ujiri gets a lot of credit for how he built that contender, and he won a championship with them, and I think that's certainly warranted. The amount of quality that has walked out of the door in Toronto and the little value that they have recouped speaks volumes, and that's a huge problem. The Bulls, were they just twiddling their thumbs this whole time? Like, they've done nothing. They are in the mud, and they've gone in no direction. They're stuck in neutral right now. I'm just shocked. Like, they couldn't be buyers probably because
You said the
what did
Bulls,
they
right?
really have? The Bulls. They don't really have many assets.
One of two teams not to make a move at the deadline.
Yeah, and you know why I feel like they didn't make a move? Probably due to the fact that they're really close to luxury tax, and they didn't want to surpass it, and that ownership is frugal, to say the least.
Yeah, to say the least is right. So that's about it.
What? The other thing, to just go through the list of people that still haven't been moved. Now you didn't say John Wall. He did get traded to Houston in the Eric Gordon 3-team trade. Pat Bev got traded for Mo Bamba. So Mo Bamba is a Laker. And then Russ destination should be interesting. Kyle Lowry, the Heat didn't make any significant move other than getting rid of Dwayne Dedmon, and they already had Orlando Robinson taking over that backup center spot. So yeah, I'm with Jeremy on this. The Toronto side eye is kind of justified right now.
I mean, look, if you're the Raptors,
Their
fan base wants them to tank, by the way. They're not blow it up. Yeah.
And they're probably not, like, they could do it, but the fact that they just traded a protected first round pick next year would imply that they still want to contend, or at least try to compete.
Yeah. They're in 10th right now. They're a game behind the Bulls, and they're a game and a half behind the Hawks.
They are also 3 games back of Orlando for the 5th best lottery odds.
That's what I'm saying. They're in a fascinating position, but I am like Andrew or Jeremy. You were cautioning against let's not laugh at the Nets until we get through this trade deadline with the Knicks. I'm not going to sit here and laugh at a Toronto team that has played below their point differential all year long. They've been a better team than their record indicates, and they did, even if it might cause some complications in the summer, they just got better. They are 4 games behind the Knicks. Would it shock you? Because I'm just saying it would not shock me if Toronto won more games than they in the second half or the final third of the season than they've won thus far in terms of win percentage.
It's less about that, and it's more about the fact that there were so many conversations about, will they move this player or that player, that now they have to deal with it in the summer, and it just feels messy.
That's big.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm talking about this season. This season, may be an inconvenience.
Right. This season they could make the playoffs, or they could finish in the lottery and have great odds for Victor Wembanyama. They'll figure it out.
My point is very simply that, like,
Knicks will not have a deal that includes Obi Toppin at the trade deadline.
Okay. We could sit here right now and talk about how they maybe did themselves a disservice, but if the Knicks somehow end up in 7th and the Toronto Raptors are in 8th and the Raptors come into the Garden and beat them in the play-in game, we're not going to care about that at that moment. You may care about that because you're big picture, but I guarantee the Knicks won't care about that in that moment.
Probably not.
Okay.
I think that's more of a 7-10 matchup, by the way. If the Raptors win a 10-9 playing game.
I have not quit the Raptors all year, and I'm not quitting them now.
Well, it took you forever to quit the Warriors, and now we'll see how long it is before the Raptors get quit on.
Yeah, I do want to do like a kind of we'll get through some more super chats, and then we'll do kind of like do we need to recalibrate the favorites and whatnot, but maybe before we get out of here if we have time. Keep it going?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Before we do that, can I pose one thing?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I know we still have to digest a lot of this, but when you look at all the players who were dealt, and you look at Josh Hart, where does he stack up in terms of the talent that has been traded and that hasn't?
Ooh. That's a good question. I think it's complicated because he's younger, and there's also the free agency thing that's hanging over his head that, again, I think both of us feel like is not going to be a thing hanging over the Knicks' head. Could you argue that outside of the Durant deal, could you argue that he was the best player that got traded? Unless am I forgetting an obvious name?
Kyrie was traded.
Putting
The
Kyrie aside.
non-stars.
Like even thinking back to the Lakers deal last night with Minnesota and Utah, like who's the best player in that trade? Is it Mike Conley? Is it?
It could.
Not D'Lo.
I'm not a big D'Lo guy myself, but fine.
D'Lo really to me is in the eye of the beholder, because there's some people who absolutely feel that he's had a good season, and others who just feel he has not been productive at all. I guess the way that I see it is the Knicks did trade a protected first, but if that pick doesn't convey, they've traded 4 second-round picks. And we're seeing like a run on, like 5 second-round picks to get Wiseman and Peyton, right? Like that sort of move. So I think when you it also, we don't know what second-round picks they are. If we're talking about, as we mentioned, the Pistons second-round pick next year, the Jazz second-round pick, maybe is it the Nets second-round pick? All these picks the Knicks have available to them. Is it better to say like the 20th, for example, 20th pick in the NBA this year, or multiple picks in the 30s in the next few years? I don't really know, because we don't have the information in front of us. It's just that sort of thing of weighing second-round picks versus protected first-round picks.
I think I'm comfortable sitting here and saying the Knicks got the best. Maybe some people would take D'Lo over him, but again, that is a really, 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 really good Lakers pick that got them D'Lo and Beasley and Vanderbilt. Put that trade aside, obviously put the Durant trade aside, put the Kyrie trade aside, all the other trades, the Knicks got the best player, they gave up the best thing. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Pirtle was a first-round pick and 2 second-round
Pirtle.
picks.
I forgot about Pirtle. Pirtle's better than Hart.
Yeah, and so they gave up more in that sense. And then one
Top
more
6
team
protected pick next year, I would argue is certainly a better asset.
Yeah. And then last thing, talking about teams that didn't do anything, Cavaliers did nothing.
I was thinking about that. Yeah.
Like this is a team that traded for Donovan Mitchell. They're supposed to be contending with him on the roster. They have 3 years to show him, you should be here. We want to keep you here. They did nothing. And if you're the Knicks and you just upgraded and you see the Nets getting worse and you see the Cavs not adding to it and you see the Heat not adding to it, suddenly you're thinking, hey, maybe we could get a little bit higher in the standings.
Which is why
maybe
I think
we could get as high as 4 and as low as where we're at right now at 7.
Which is why I bet you they were. I wonder if that wasn't driving maybe some of their conversations with Chicago, but we'll see. Okay. Stevens Guillaume, keep Zach LaVine far away from this team. You got your wish. Congratulations. I'm happy. I did not want Zach LaVine. I really didn't.
For the best right now. We'll deal with it this summer. Cap or no cap. It's one of them.
Oh, God. Juanon, the deadline is fucking nuts, and we still have, oh, my God, this is how backlogged we are. We still have 40 minutes to go. Still waiting for the Nick-related Woj bomb, because I think an OB deal is coming after the tweet from Ian. Well, obviously, it's not coming.
Good news.
I'm happy OB's here. I know that might be a controversial opinion, but I am above all else a guy who does not like to sell low, and you could argue that Obi Toppin's value is going to get lower than it is right now. I'm sure, Jeremy, you will argue that. I don't know that how much lower it can get will make a material difference, if that makes sense.
Well, it does. So here's the thing, right? Like, you don't want to sell low, but if he's still used in the same capacity that he's being used, his value will continue to drop because the time that he has left on his contract goes down. And
my point is, do we care?
We do care. We absolutely should care. Why? Because he's supposed to be an asset to this team.
So
you need to use him in some way. A couple weeks ago, we had the conversation where you mentioned if you bought stock for $1 million and it dropped to $200,000, what do you do? Well, first of all, in that situation, you know what you would have done if you saw it was dropping precipitously? You would have sold before it got to 200,000.
Yes.
You would have said, "Oh, this is losing value. Let's find a way to get this off of our books so we can bring something in that will not lose value, that can gain value." So if you're saying, "I'm cool with keeping it, I don't like to sell low," but there is the risk of his salary or of his value continuing to drop, then it's a bit oxymoronic because you're expecting it to then drop inherently if
And
he's not going to do anything different. So
and
you
I'm
might as
pushing
well
back. No, I'm pushing back in this sense. If the best trade that is out there right now today for Obi Toppin is a second round pick or 3 second round picks or 4 second round picks, is that worth selling on?
Yes. If you,
I'm not
what's
there.
it going to be a
I'm not
year
there.
from now? And then what are we saying? Oh, the Knicks should have traded him and they just let him walk. And then we get to say they can't believe they turned an 8th overall pick into nothing.
Because
something's better than nothing.
Because of the opportunity cost of not knowing the possible other outcomes. It's not likely because he's built like a brick shithouse. But Julius Randle could twist his ankle in the game tomorrow and be out for a month or a month and a half. In which case, if they again, what are the chances of that happening? Is it less than 5% chance? I have no idea. But if he ever missed a significant period of time, and I know he's played every game this season, and they traded Obi Toppin for a hand of, 2, 3, 4 second round picks, I think people would be a little upset. And then again, we probably not going to happen. Almost certainly not going to happen. But if they found a deal this summer where it made sense for them to trade out Randall and there was a path to Obi for playing minutes here next year, but they had already traded him away. Again, there is an argument. That's all I'm saying. There's an argument.
But what I don't understand here, right? Okay, let's say they moved Obi. It's not like, cool, we have no one there. They could have traded him for a worse player and 4 second round picks. They could have used Derrick Rose's salary.
But you're the one sitting here telling me he's this great untapped potential.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he is bigger than the role that he is in.
I must be confused.
Well, you're making it out for me to sound like I'm saying he's this star that's in the ranks and he, like he's the Patrick Mahomes to the Alex Smith of the world. That's not what I'm saying. But that's not what I am saying.
Okay.
I am saying that if you are not giving him an opportunity, that you need to then find an opportunity for him elsewhere because you can make other moves around it. Because you're either saying that he has value as an insurance guy, but clearly he doesn't because we would have seen it by now. And yet at the same time, if they move Randall, he's ready to jump onto the scene. But we just said that he's not good enough because if you're good enough, you'd have more of a role. It doesn't add up to me.
I would push back and say that while I am sure that part of the reason he does not have a bigger role is because this coach does not fully trust him in the ways that this coach likes to trust players. I think that is part of it. I do not think that is the entire discussion. I think a bigger part of the discussion is the sort of system this coach likes to play, 48 minutes of rim protection, and the fact that the guy in front of Obi Toppin is an NBA All-Star.
So do you see Tom Thibodeau keeping this job?
At this rate, yes.
So then what role is there for him?
Something would have to happen to Julius Randle.
So by
a trade or injury.
But again, but
yes, I'm weighing the percentage chance that happens versus the return today that you could get from Obi Toppin, and the return today that you could that I'm assuming you could have gotten for Obi Toppin today is not worth selling and potentially having a situation where whatever percentage chance you want to say Randle gets hurt or Randle gets traded, that you wouldn't have Obi Toppin there in one of those two circumstances.
But it implies that there's no one else the Knicks would acquire to fill Obi's minutes whatsoever, which I don't think is fair because they had a player like Derrick Rose at their disposal to do that. That's the thing. Like, I'm not saying Eric Pascal is going to be a good player, but he is a live body who can play 10 minutes per game if he absolutely has to. They can scheme in other ways.
Again, we're agreeing to disagree here.
Okay. All right.
We're not seeing eye to eye on this one.
I know we're not because you're seeing it in the eyes of Tibbs and I'm not. That's what I feel like is.
I don't think I'm seeing it in the. I actually think I'm seeing it in the opposite in the eyes of Tibbs, but that's just me. Let's move on.
Okay.
This really my life. Well, I understand Jeremy wanting to be patient till we turn into ghosts. Oof, I don't agree with this. The reality is the clock is ticking on this front office.
No, it's not. And I'm not waiting for the Knicks, for all of us to turn to ghosts in order for the Knicks to do something. I just don't believe that they have to do something right now. They don't have to do something this summer. They are making improvements every single year. They are getting better as a team. Yes, we can talk about how the last year's season did not go well, right? But they retooled, they turned around, and they put the ship in the right direction. So no, I'm not advising wait 5-6 years for another player. At a certain point, you absolutely need to make the call on these players. You need to get a star in the building. I'm a little bit more patient than others. So be it.
Matt Lyons, does the Stepien rule work for second round picks too? No, it does not.
Mm-mm.
Man, sorry, one more Bulls thing. Joe Cowley just tweeted out a couple months ago. Bulls fans are going to be real thrilled when the team officially rules Lonzo Ball out for the remainder of the season by the All-Star break. Maybe it happens today, but too much bad news in one day is never a good thing. It's unfortunate.
I just want to add one more thing to the previous comment, because
Sure.
I saw another comment saying that it just happened to appear that I've been saying wait since 2020. Yeah, when Leon Rose took over this team, who was good on the team?
It's fair.
Yeah, so
Team's
I'm
gotten better.
sorry. I'm sorry that I would like to see the Knicks regroup and act like a functional team for 3 seasons, 4 seasons, and then they can really strike. That's the way I'm looking at it. I know you're not disagreeing. I'm just saying for people who think, oh, I'm so incredibly patient. I'm just asking for an ounce of patience that we have not given to other franchises before. Because by this point, how many of the presidents and GMs that we have seen are even still here 2.5, 3 years into the job and doing a good job at that? In the last 20 years, no one, not a single soul. So yeah, a good thing's going. We can be a little bit more patient before the star comes about, because I don't see what stars out there right now that would make a huge difference.
I have been critical.
We just talked about it's not Zach LaVine.
Yeah, I've been critical.
All these other teams are doing great. Sorry, just there aren't stars that are on the market that are worth it. So what the fuck are the Knicks supposed to do, guys? Really?
You really do get passionate about this, my God.
I'm passionate about it because of the fact that we as fans just have to be a little patient, right? And we need to be a little bit more patient, because if there were a star in the market, and some will say, hey, it should have been Donovan Mitchell. And I say, you know what? I respect that opinion. I don't see Donovan Mitchell in the same way that other people do. That's their prerogative. That's fine. I don't see other stars on the market right now, so I don't see how they can necessarily do it. That's my 2 cents.
I have been critical of this front office at times about certain things. I don't think today is the day to be critical of them in the least.
Spicy cutlets.
Very spicy cutlets. The spiciest.
I'm running on little sleep.
Jalapenos.
A lot of stuff, and I'm just tired of that idea that we can't be patient. We can,
and we will, and we have been, and we'll continue to be. Nitin Parasa, thank you for the contribution.
No comment, just contribution.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Danny S. Rangers making a trade is typical Knicks. It's great.
Jeremy, who would Tarasenko be? Like, what
I
would
don't
you
follow
compare
enough.
that? Okay.
I honestly don't even know where Tarasenko is. I remember he was a big name a while ago, so I'm not the person to ask.
Someone that knows hockey better than us, but also knows basketball, in the comments, please give me a Tarasenko comp. Like, the Knicks just traded for blank, and we'll relay that to people if they want to know how Rangers/Knicks fans feel today.
Man, Knicks Bulls fans are not happy. Danny S. Oh, sorry. Kevin Danishevsky, what's a deal that would excite you guys? What's a deal that would have excited me? I don't really know. Honestly, after they got hard, I don't know that there was a deal out there. I was mostly petrified about what they might do. I mean, getting any value for Rose would have been nice. That doesn't excite me though. Nothing.
I'm with you. The Hart move was the quote unquote exciting move.
I'm excited by that move. I'm very excited.
Yeah, 100%. But in terms of something else, I don't see what it would be. Nothing exciting.
Red Sarachek. I'm sorry. I know I brought it up last night, but regarding our sweet Prince Quentin Grimes, will his minutes be reduced? Seems like it's either him or RJ sitting at the end of game as it is. I I mean, Tibbs is definitely going to have another choice in terms of how to close games for sure, which is going to be interesting. At the very least, what's nice is now it's not going to be like that. There's one odd man out. Now there's going to be two odd men out. Which is maybe better in some ways. I think the biggest question is what happens with Deuce. Does Deuce keep playing? Do they go to a 10-man rotation? I honestly might be shocked. I think that's not. I think I'm going to use the word. I would be shocked if Deuce continues to play in the rotation after this.
I know I'm putting the cart in front of the horse here, but I think you get this acquisition in mind with play-in/playoffs. And the way that I see it is the Knicks have a starting five. Starting five is productive. They're all going to be in the rotation should the Knicks make it to bonus basketball. Who else is there that Tibbs trusts? There's Emmanuel Quickley, Isaiah Hartenstein, Josh Hart. I would hope that he gets Obi Toppin some minutes, certainly at least to give Julius Randle a breather. The playoffs are a different animal, as are the play-in games. Deuce has not had that exposure yet. He has not been battle tested in the playoffs. I think that's maybe in the regular season he goes to 10. Maybe he goes to 8. Maybe he goes to 9 when it's more important. But rotations get pared down a bit when playoffs come.
Yeah, and I think, we'll see what happens. Robert Cross, first time, long time. John, I've spent a lot of time in generating revenue. The Knicks might want to be better at not devaluing their own assets. Excuse me. I misread that. Hashtag 53 wins. I think we have to be fair. If you look at the assets on the Knicks, we have, let's say, Mitchell Robinson, in no particular order. Mitchell Robinson, R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes, and Obi Toppin. I can't go so far as to call Deuce McBride an asset. Of those 5, I think the value of Mitchell Robinson has increased. I think the value of Emmanuel Quickley has increased. I think the value of Quentin Grimes has increased. I think the value of R.J. Barrett has either stayed neutral or gone down a little bit. And if it has gone down a little bit, I'm not sure. That's the one guy who even like the biggest RJ supporters are out there. I don't think the blame goes on like the team or the coach for that one. I think there's they've given him chances to succeed. And that leaves Obi Toppin, who's one guy. I understand it's one guy that was drafted 8th overall. I understand it's one guy that inspires a lot of emotion and fanfare amongst his fan base. But just like Jeremy ranted and raved about, you got to be fair here. I'm not going to rant and rave, but I am going to push back on that. It's one guy. All right. One.
Well, it's also Cam.
Which, yes, fine. You want to throw Cam in there? I think that is a joint job between the coach and the front office.
Right. Look, I get that cream rises to the top. Don't get me wrong, but there also has to be the opportunity.
I don't, for one single solitary second, think that Cam Reddish is ever going to have a meaningful minute on a professional basketball court.
I mean, he's already done that in the playoffs, so I don't agree with that.
I don't think he's going to do it again.
Okay. That's that. I mean, I don't know what to make of that. It's one thing to say it didn't work out here. Another thing to say it's just not going to have a meaningful minute for the rest of his career.
It will not work out for him.
What counts as meaningful?
Have a a real impact on wow, Cam Reddish decided a playoff game.
He literally did that.
We also,
I don't think he's going to do it again.
That's such a weird goalpost to set. Why? We don't know that about Julius Randle.
I don't think anyone is going to look back and be like, wow, the Knicks missed their chance with Cam Reddish. Is that simple enough to say?
That's.
I just think I understand what you're saying. It just, from both the front office and the coaching standpoint, it removes culpability for how the situation was played by saying he's not going to be anything, so the Knicks can wipe their hands clean. All while we talk about, hey, I can't believe the Knicks turned the 19th pick in a draft and basically lit it on fire for what was essentially a second round pick that the Nets own in 2025.
Listen, it was a rough situation. It wasn't ideal. We all know back to that draft, they were trying to package those picks to move up. It didn't happen. They made the best deal on the table. I think I'm much less bothered by that than I am the decision to trade for Cam at all. Because it is very clear in retrospect that nobody else in the league was willing to offer what the Knicks offered. And that should have perhaps been a sign that this is not the guy to spend the first round pick on. So again, the devaluation had occurred amongst 28 other teams before Cam got here, but it was only here in this situation where we talk about the devaluation. I'm mincing my words, but like everybody else already had a low valuation on Cam. In New York, it's like, oh, you guys devalued Cam after you got him here. No, the book was already out. Nobody wanted this guy. Nobody was willing to give a first round pick for him.
I'm not implying that it had nothing to do with the Knicks. Cam is, yes, obviously he didn't contribute to his own situation, but the Knicks did not do a great job of incorporating him into the fold. That's the similar situation I have with Obi. There is there's a disconnect here in terms of being able to get everyone together.
Okay, great. And that's
if the
Knicks can turn players.
If the Knicks can turn Obi top, well, but look, to be fair, it's also a lot of the free agents that they signed, right?
How did this turn into a session about that the coach is once again responsible for all of the ills of this franchise?
You're clearly taking it personally if you're saying the coach when I said the coach in the front office. So if you are standing on this hill of Tom Thibodeau, then you're taking a little bit more personally than I'm implying it to be.
It's not about the hill. It's about painting a fair picture.
But I'm talking about the front office too. So either it was a Freudian slip or you're more focused on the coach when I'm not just talking about the coach. I'm talking about the coach in the front office and the disconnect.
Okay. As long as we're keeping it a buck, that's fine.
But I've been keeping it a buck this whole time. That's my point.
Okay.
I'm not singling out the coach. I'm talking about the brain trust as a whole. And I'm talking about the players not being able to do the job.
All parties are equally responsible. Or share in responsibility.
Yes, that's fine. That's
including the players. That's the thing that we always get lost in this.
I'm not losing
players
that.
are capable of like being good players.
Yeah, I'm not pushing back on that. We're in agreement on that. It's talking about the whole picture here. That's really it. It's not about the coach. It's not about the front office. It's not about the players. It's about all of them together.
But so I feel like so often the conversation about this stuff, like to Robert's question and whatnot, that we're talking about a player like Obi Toppin like he's a fucking potted plant that if you don't water him, he's going to die. And if you do water him, he's going to grow. No, that's not. No, but that's how it gets talked about. That is how
it's not. At least that's not how I'm
his comment. Put up his comment again.
I can't speak for other people. I'm
not saying you. I'm saying the comment that he just put up a minute ago. The Knicks do a great job devaluing their players. That speaks as if the player is a potted plant. That's the connotation.
Last year, how did they value their young players?
Not
like when Alec Burks was playing. Okay, but that's to Robert's point. This year, those players were able to shine. And a big part of that was because the front office said, we are going to remove the mistakes that we made and let these players have the opportunity to flourish. Fine. That's his point.
Yeah.
It's similar this year. It's not the same because we're really mostly talking about Obi Toppin in this context.
What? Number one, if players are flourishing, we have no idea what went into making them flourish, and we have no idea how whatever did or did not happen last year contributed to the positive outcomes that we are seeing this year. That's number one. And number two, I don't think that goes against the point that I'm making. Yes, opportunity is part of it, but there, like 15 minutes a game is still opportunity. It is not 0 minutes per game. It is not 5 minutes per game. It is 15 minutes per game. That is not nothing.
The first point you made essentially, again, removes accountability from Tibbs because it's saying,
I'm not removing accountability.
If you're saying, okay, well, they needed that for their development to not play or to watch other veterans fuck around and
I'm just saying we don't know. I'm saying we don't know.
But
I'm saying
they created the environment, in which case we don't know because they weren't able to play at all. And we saw some of these players add meaningful minutes in their rookie seasons, like Emmanuel Quickley and Obi Toppin. We saw Quentin Grimes break through last year with COVID.
Okay.
We saw them start to improve. It's tough, but it's tough for me to see Obi Toppin in year 3 and there's no path for him to keep improving because the minutes won't increase.
And my point is that perhaps the lack of improvement that we are seeing is not completely without fault of the player. Maybe the player just is what the player is, and maybe the player isn't that great. That's all.
I'm not saying it has nothing to do with the player. I'm saying if you
Okay,
don't,
then
give
we're
the
in
player-
agreement.
We're not, but it's fine.
Okay. I
John,
don't
you
think
gotta
we're actually
go?
disagreeing. What?
John, you gotta go.
I'll do one more and then I'll get out of here.
One more. 1 second. There's also a Mark Berman tweet that might actually speak to how Tibbs feels about Obi.
Yeah, I saw it. Listen, Bourbon's living his best life, and
He also has like a direct line to Tibbs, so I actually think this would give us some insight as to how Tibbs is feeling. But the quote is Thibodeau has reservations on Obi's basketball IQ, and he notes that William Wesley is probably the reason that Obi's
that I completely
price is
agree
probably
with.
so high.
I completely agree with that. I think Obi Toppin would have been elsewhere a long time ago. I think Obi Toppin, actually, let me rephrase that. I think Obi Toppin would have never been drafted here heading up in Worldwide West.
Yeah. I also agreement. Here, last one.
All right, Red Sarachek. If I'm a GM, which I am, I'm saying to Leon, you think Obi is valued so high, I'll call your bluff. GMs know they won't play him, and that hurts leverage. Yes, I agree it hurts leverage, and I agree you're not going to pay as much as you might feel that the player is worth. But I also wonder, is there not a gray area in which you feel like, okay, we really think that guy's a diamond in the rough. New York is valuing him more than what we know that they really value him. So we do want to call their bluff, but their valuation on him is still less than what we think he is actually worth. I think there would be a compromise to be potentially made there. And there was no compromise made. That's all. Because I don't think any team has the sort of valuation on him that some people seem to think is out there. That's all.
If the Knicks value him that highly, they should play him more. That's it.
I think there continues to be disagreements within the Knicks over the value of Obi Toppin, as is the case with many players.
Literally heard it. The coach and senior advisor disagree about him.
Well, according to Mark Berman.
Because he's never had a report that's correct, right?
Busy. Jeremy's right. John, the longer you keep Obi, it lowers his value. I'm not disagreeing with that. That's the odds say that is correct. I'm just saying it's not a certainty. That's all. Okay. I got to go. I'm going to bid everybody adieu. Thanks for watching. Andrew and Jeremy, Godspeed, carrying everybody home.
And take it home.
Yep.
All right. See you guys later.
John.
Okay. Deep breath, everybody. Dad's here. Okay.
I thought John and I were the parent.
Oh, no.
Okay. We're the children and you're the parent.
I don't know if I'm the parent. Maybe it's more the director is watching his 2 stars not, go at it. But the Knicks didn't make a detrimental move. They didn't at least I don't think they made a detrimental move today. They didn't trade for Zach LaVine. I like the Josh Hart trade. That's my take on. I have no idea how we got there, is what I'll say.
Look,
Jeremy.
Disagreement is healthy, right? We each have viewpoints that are expressed by different parts of this fan base. I have no issue with that. It's all basketball at the end of the day. It's just how we see it. It's more just we just have a fundamental disagree in terms of the viewpoints in which we're coming from, and that's fine. I'm cool with it. I'm just the way it is. So that, just kind of, it came to a point because I still feel that there needs to be an opportunity for Obi Toppin that I don't foresee happening, and not trading him would imply that there's going to be an opportunity, but not playing him in that opportunity then makes you wonder, well, again, why didn't they move him? But
Also,
we just talked about it, so no need to dwell.
But like the most productive change that this rotation made this year was encouraged by the front office, or low-key forced by people ahead of Tibbs. We'd probably still be seeing Derrick Rose and Evan Fournier and trying to squeeze everything we could out of them if it wasn't for them. So like the play the kids movement, I can't fully credit to the head coach, but
if that's the case, then why are they not doing it for Obi? Like, why is, and the reason is because Julius Randle's playing at an all-star level.
That's
Tibbs doesn't like going small, and it gets us back to the original situation. You either keep Tibbs or you find something with Obi. They're going to keep Tibbs, but they're also keeping Obi. So it's
It's
Whatever.
also
We'll
why, to
figure it
your
out.
point, I agreed with the idea. Like Benji and I were like, if you like Obi, if you love Obi, let him go. Like we were co-signing your take that
Yeah.
even if he is like, you're gonna get quality minutes from your backup four. He deserves more than just quality minutes as a backup four. He deserves a place to go where someone will use him to the best of his talents. Win or loss, be damned. You know, I understand like the Knicks push and pull. Obi has some growing pains he has to go through, and like that might not look so great on a team that has like the Pacers that might not care what seed they are. The Knicks are trying to put on a show every night for James Dolan, so they can't afford to live through the growing pains, which is why I thought we saw what we saw last year. Okay, let's speed through these because I know you got to go back to work too. As always, amazing. Oh, this is from Mark R. As always, amazing job, KFS. Your coverage and content are unmatched. Excited to see how Hart meshes. East seems slightly more open without KD and Kyrie. Why? Where'd they go? What happened?
Beats me. I don't know. I thought they were on the Nets.
I was told that the city was under new management, Jeremy.
Interesting.
Yeah. Is this like an Ozymandias thing where we're showing up to the city in ruins, but there's a sign that says the city is under new management? There's a literary reference for you, everybody. Yeah. Shout out college. Anyway, Hank, here, you read this one. We'll go back and forth.
Hank Houtenboss, Cohen for the win, I guess. If you agree, cool. If you don't, cool. It's a fun debate. Glad we had it.
Jeremy. From John, not it'd be funny if John just wrote in a super chat. Actually, no.
Yeah.
From JOHN. John with an H. Shout out Sean with a W. Honestly, doesn't matter what the Knicks do. Look at the West. It is stacked. Someone in the West is going to win the chip for a long time, and Tibbs broke Grimes. In my opinion, we need a new coach.
Ooh, lots of unpack.
Kind of glad someone left.
Yeah.
Because this might have broke him. Yeah.
I don't think Tibbs broke Grimes for whatever it's worth. I don't see it quite as such, but we'll see what the role is with Josh Hart here and Grimes' playing time. In terms of the West, I mean, yeah, the West is stacked, but what happens if teams in the West beat up on each other? And it's a real 7-game cage match for a lot of these teams. And then, you know, like I think about the Warriors and the Raptors, where the Warriors just seem like head and heels above where the Raptors are. Durant gets hurt, Clay gets hurt. A lot of it just came from a lot of playing time, injury, some, you know, that might have been kinetic, some that might have just happened. Anything can happen. An easier road could mean you're less battle tested, but also that you're more rested. So but there will come a point in which the Knicks should try to then take that next step and get into the upper echelon of teams. But yeah, it doesn't have to be now. It could be a year. It could be 2 years, but we'll see what other stars are on the market.
Frank Miranda, what's up, fellas? It's your boy Frank from Patreon. Mac, you are way off on the Obi situation. Jeremy is right. If you're not going to play the kid, send him elsewhere and give him a legit chance. No disagreement, Frank. Yeah.
John's not here to defend himself for this one, so I'll just say thank you for the contribution, Frank.
There you go, Frank. There's praise coming in for you. So
Frank sound. Yes, Jeremy. Amen. Okay. I'm a man of the people, I guess.
Next up.
You.
Oh, Carolina Knicks fan. Biggest loser this deadline. Bulls or Heat?
Yes.
Miami. So Miami is interesting because they were, from what again, shout out to the Dan Le Batard show, as well as my new friend Giancarlo of the Miami Heat Beats. The Heat plan apparently was that Kevin Durant would become available eventually. And he was, and they still didn't get him. And so they're left hoping Russell Westbrook wants to go there. There's a world where Russ does go there and Lowry just sits the bench next to Duncan Robinson. And like, that's what we're left with in Miami, is that the Bulls, I at least understand they're set up to tear it down this offseason too. You know, like it's a do nothing move when they probably should have done something, and Bulls fans will be upset, but they at least are set up to do something this offseason. The Heat, I think they have assets nobody wants. The Duncan Robinson, the Kyle Lowry, like bad money, you know? So that's where you got to give the Knicks credit for being able to navigate the bad money on their roster. If you want to call Fournier that, if you want to call Rose that, they're able to navigate that with productive players that they drafted and developed.
It's got to be the Heat, just based on they don't have and Robinson's been good, not Duncan, but they don't have. Or no, it's Haywood Highsmith. Yeah, it's Haywood Highsmith who plays the 4. They could have used or Orlando Robinson. They could have used an improvement. Bottom line, the situation with Lowry feels untenable. I mean, I'm looking at their cap sheet right now. If Victor Oladipo opts into his deal, $9.45 million player option, the Heat are at $173 million. The luxury tax is going to be below that. So they'll be a tax team. They'll have 9 players on the roster. They still won't have their starting power forward situation figured out. They'll still have to deal with Kyle Lowry. To be honest, Andrew, maybe I'm crazy. I feel like there's actually a deal that could go between these two teams in the summer. That being Lowry and a first-round pick for DeRozan.
Ooh.
Salaries work. They add a win now piece. They get someone who can play the forward spot.
You don't think the Bulls would ask for more?
They probably would, and if I'm Miami, I probably consider it. Just based on but here's the thing: DeRozan's going to be what, 33, 34?
Yeah, but he matches their timeline, so
he does. Right,
age matters less.
It does, and I mean, they're also pick wise. I think. Let's see. I mean, they already have one pick going to OKC. Yeah, it's the 2025 first. So do they call up OKC and say, we'll toss in a 2029 second round pick for you to be able to remove the protections again, and it's guaranteed to go in 2024, 25 or 2025, or they push it back to 26, and then they can trade their 2024 first. There are different things they can do, but they got to do something if they want to compete with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. And it's just not a good situation for all the credit that Pat Riley gets. And there's plenty of credit that goes around for him, and rightfully so. I feel like it's a mess down in South Beach. It just does not this season. And listen, they could go off. There's
don't
statistically
it's a mess.
They're statistically tied with Miami, with New
Mm-hmm.
York, but the Knicks made an improvement. The Heat did not. It just feels like a half measure, as you would say.
Again, look at what we're talking about, though. The Miami Heat and all of their, just look around the Knicks in the standings. The Miami Heat, who are a half game better than the Knicks, and the mess that we're saying they created. The team below the Knicks, the Hawks, have gone all in on DeJounte Murray and this move and this roster. The commitment to mid, they have set a ceiling. The Chicago Bulls did not make a move today, and their fan base is furious. The Toronto Raptors, regardless of John's respect for them, are not as good as people think they are. They're the Club 6'9", where everybody's a wing, and they traded for a center when they probably could have blown it up, got legitimate value like the Nets did. That's why, look, yes, take your 10 seconds to laugh at the Nets, but they recognized an opportunity to blow it up. I am very impressed with the haul that they got back, both in players and in picks and compensation for KD and Kyrie. That's going to become a very likable team that's winning nothing, but that's a team that all 87 Nets fans can enjoy watching. And then you have the Knicks, who are competing with a roster under 28 without a max contract on the team. Things aren't as bad as people might make them out to be. This is more to Jeremy's point earlier, that patience might actually be paying off with this team. So, all right. Bunch more before we get out of here. Busy. You're up.
Busy, functional team sign vets to back up their all-star, not keeping young players who haven't been developed. Sign Melo if you're concerned about Julius Randle getting hurt. I'm not someone who sees a role for Carmelo Anthony here, but I agree with the overall principle that Busy's talking about. It's less about that they can be a backup. It's more about that they can't grow within the role. And when they're when they're constricted to what they can do, yeah, there's not an opportunity. They've hit their ceiling. It's like when you go to a dead end job, if you can't get a promotion there and you don't want to be there anymore, then you're going to look for a new job. NBA is a little different. Obi Toppin can't look for a new job. It's up to the Knicks to find out if they want to give Obi Toppin an opportunity elsewhere. As of right now, they have not found a deal that they're comfortable with where they can send him elsewhere.
I also have no issue in any scenario where the Knicks sign Carmelo Anthony. Kevin Danishevsky was thinking, with Hart's lack of shooting and good defense, is it possible to expand his rotation to 10 or goes with Evan for extra shooting? So that would expand it to 11. Unless you're saying Deuce sits, Hart and Evan rejoin the rotation. I don't think Evan Fournier he's the Frank. He's the 11th man, in my opinion.
Yep.
That you'd agree with that. Okay.
I would agree with that.
Scrolling down. We're only about 20 minutes behind. We're at the point where you guys were conversing and now people are reacting to it. Go ahead.
Danny S, take a step back and breathe. I can't take a step back. I'm sitting, but I can scooch back.
Scooch back and breathe. Inhale, exhale, repeat. Yes.
We're good. We're all set.
Kara Goldenberg. Have we forgotten about Alec Burks at point guard over IQ? Macri, come on. I let you guys fight it out. So go ahead. Jeremy, you're up.
AP_26. Jeremy, just say it. It's all Tibbs' fault. I feel like this was said facetiously. So it's not all Tibbs' fault. It's not. It's a part of it. There's a greater conversation to be had.
Look, and to that greater conversation, what I've come to appreciate this year, and this is less a defense of Tibbs and more just an understanding of the situation this entire front office and coach and players are in under this owner. Like I was talking to you off air a little bit about this yesterday, that like there's just the lack of patience doesn't allow them to hire a win later coach that focuses more on development. Like you're never going to see the Thunder here. You're never going to see the sirens that would go off if this was the Pacers right now, and what they've been able to do, putting in entertaining win now product that doesn't have a ceiling yet on the court, is where I appreciate why Tibbs is here and why his focus and his need to, win now exists, while also recognizing that it might be at the detriment of some players. I'm not going to say it's all players. I do think there's some nuance to the conversations of Cam and Obi and some of the younger players, but I do think that they've actually navigated this pretty well under the circumstances, at least.
Yeah. And listen, as we're talking about, when it comes to a point where the front office has to continually intervene, we don't want you to play this player. We want you to play this player. It's happened multiple times. That's not great. That's a bit of a problem, but that's what they're comfortable with. Because if they weren't comfortable with it, they would have found a new coach, and they haven't. It's not something they've done yet. And unless they miss the playoffs, I don't see that as something they want to do moving forward. This is you or me?
This is me. This really my life. The problem is simple. Hope you're watching, John. The problem is simple. John has appointed himself Tibbs' defense lawyer. I've read enough Grisham to know lawyers speak. I will let John answer for that when he's live again on Friday. I'm off, so I'll let APJP deal with that. And that is between him and his God. And no, I do not mean Tom Thibodeau. Next up.
Busy. You can't give a guy 10 minutes a game and expect him to grow. This young guy has shown and has said, when I don't have to look over my shoulder, I play well. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like that when Tibbs made the analogy of the backup quarterback, that's kind of what has stuck in the mind of like, oh, so Obi is the backup quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't necessarily agree with that. I think he's playing the role of it, but he's not a journeyman backup quarterback. With that said, yeah, I just he gets minutes. He knows his role. But I agree, Busy. It's harder to grow when, and that's look, but that is the benefit that the Knicks have, where they've got a really good player ahead of them. And I don't mean that as a knock to any, like, Julius Randle made the All-Star game for a reason. The Knicks have an All-Star. Hopefully, the Knicks have 2 All-Stars based on replacements. There's no shame in playing behind an All-Star. There only, when healthy, 24 of them. My issue is not the playing behind part. It's also the playing with part, and it's the inability to see more time in other ways. It was nice seeing Tibbs adjust with the Magic game. I thought he did a phenomenal job at the end of the game. Things I would have done differently that he, as we talked about on playback, that he didn't do, and they worked out, and I applaud him for it. I just wish it could be more, and I wish that the more part could feature Obi Toppin more.
I mean, yeah, the Obi thing, I've kind of given up. Like, it's less about what I wish Tibbs would do at this point for me, and it's more like it's not going to happen here, which is why I was okay if it happened today. And then wherever Obi ended up, I would have been intrigued to see how he's used, So.
Yep.
Jay Wright, not the Villanova coach, although he's probably going to enjoy watching the Knicks for a while. Jay Wright, who is the best player that Tibbs has banned? Obi, Kemba. Oh, wow, John, you should have stayed for this one. Obi, Kemba, Cam, Evan, etc. Part 2. Is Tibbs asking actually too much from players to get mined? I personally don't think he's asking as much as he's asking others to an extent. I think the offense is actually a very simple penetrate and kick type of offense. It's about driving to the rim and getting to the paint. The thing that I was going to say about how they've looked better recently is I'm noticing it's not to Benji's shot quality video. They're avoiding the first available floater. Jay Wright's also correcting me in the chat that he meant to say minutes, not mind.
Gotcha.
So that makes more sense to the question. So as far as minutes are concerned, I think that's why Josh Hart's here. So that way the deuce roll isn't 7 minutes. So that way you can actually get more out of that backup wing. At least I hope it's a backup wing. Last thing I need is Grimes going down to 15 minutes. So Josh Hart can play 35, I think that's my thought.
No, I agree. I think the larger thing, it's less about banned. It's more about who is just not getting an opportunity as a result. I think there are 2 different things with that. I think one can mean the other, but it's not what I'm going for. Like, again, I'm not saying that Deuce is going to win the Knicks a whole bunch of games. I can tell you that the impact that he has on the game is greater than what Derrick Rose was giving you at the beginning of the season. And it took the front office to say, we got to make this change. It's less about the banning, and it's more about a coach who is steadfast in his beliefs, who doesn't recognize maybe even though someone is younger, they can give me more of a contribution here. You got to earn it. It feels like even when players earn it, it's a yeah, but, or they don't get the opportunity to do it. That's really where my issue is.
Couple more from Connor.
Yep. New York Liberty is the new management. That's true. It was pretty funny to see the Barclays team I root for and the Barclays team I do not root for going in completely opposite directions today. So it's going to be a fun team. It's going to be a lot of fun this summer. They took less than the Max, Stewie and Vandersloot. So that's pretty cool.
One built a super team, one dismantled a super team. Do you have to run?
How many more questions do we have?
There's 4 more.
Let's do it.
It's from Adam. First time, long time. Ozymandias as backup 4 in place of Obi. I'll shut up and listen. Love you, KFS. # Claudio season. Shout out to Adam. Always comes to my rescue whenever trolls show up in the chat. So thank you, Adam. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
You're up.
Ivan Omar. Any thought that could make Tibbs look culpable, even if it's not meant as such, gets John's panties in a wad. I listen to John, but he has SMS, man. I appreciate you for always standing up, JC. Thank you for the super chat contribution.
Okay. Morpheus 2969. I don't ascribe any malintent as it relates to Tibbs' Obi usage of Obi. Randall is his guy, and he would play him 48 minutes if he could. This is on the front office. I mean, they could. This is what I wanted last year when Randall being his guy was so detrimental. Like the front office should have stepped in and been like, "Hey, let's give Obi a look. Hey, start Alec Burks at point guard." And we got that extremely late in the season. It was just because Randall got hurt. It's 11 games that we got to see what Obi looked like starting. I think this season it's a little more defensible because Randall's been outstanding and a focal point of why they're a half game out of the 6th seed and potentially could get up to 5 or 4. So we'll see.
Yeah, and just very quickly, that's why I wanted the front office to move on from Obi, given the conversations we've just had, given the role, all of it. Starts at the top. They've set the tone. I just hope they can create a role for moving forward or turn him into something that is more valuable than they would have gotten today. And if they do, then that's fantastic. I'm certainly hoping for just a good outcome for Obi and for the Knicks. I'd love it for both to happen together. I just don't see how that works out.
Last one.
Anthony Sixto. I like this front office. They make mistakes, but don't overreact. Shown the ability not dig in. Contending window is closed next 2 years. No need for rushed moves. We have time to build this slowly /right. Yep. I agree. I might have some thoughts on this that I'll tweet out later if my brain is still working by that point. But yeah, every front office has pros and cons. They make mistakes and they have successes. And we can weigh them, see how they match up. The front office has both. I like the direction they're heading. I'm confident in it. There's more work to be done. It's progress. Progress isn't the end goal, but it's important. It's a step in the right direction. I'm happy with where they're at. Wish they'd done more, a little bit more, not a ton. Just kind of, around the margins, but we've got time. We'll see what this summer holds. And before then, we still have 20 some odd games of basketball, hopefully playoffs, not a play-in. And then we move.
And that'll do it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for the KFS trade deadline special. Not as eventful as it looked like it was going to be when we first logged on today, but I would argue that's a good thing because then we might be reacting to something a little different. And thanks to John and Jeremy for the content that we've been able to produce this week and all of you for taking in the content we've put out this week. Multiple live streams as well as one unplanned one last night. The next time you will see us is Monday. Yes, John and Jeremy will have a pod coming out Monday morning that will be recorded before the Super Bowl. So I hope nothing happens between when we record Sunday morning and then when I may actually put it out Sunday at noon to just be like, this is coming out now. And then this is happening now. And then they can enjoy the Super Bowl. Like watch it Monday morning if you want. But that is the schedule. You got Casual Friday, guys. Also tonight, we're going to record a deadline reaction and get their reactions to all of this as well. And I've got a pregame pod both of the next 2 days for the Sixers game and the Jazz game. So that's the content for the weekend. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Jeremy, any last words?
No, my brain stopped working and I still have to do other work. But right. Do everything Andrew says. Thank you all for the opportunity. It's a lot of fun every year. I look forward to carving out a couple hours of the workday to do it. So excited. Hope you are too. We'll see you soon. And let's go Knicks.